Fourth graders, Mr. Wojcik here. Just going to go over the MCA practice test. Something that you need to know are the tools and how to be successful in using those tools to take the MCA test, and just an overview of what it looks like when you're going to take it. There's a couple different ways that you can get to the MCA practice test. One way would be to search for it in a Google search, MCA practice test. Item sampler is what you would click on right there. And when it comes up, there we go. And then you're going to scroll down and you have the reading MCA practice test and the math MCA practice test. This is going to be about the math MCA practice test. So I'm going to click on View Math MCA Samplers. And then you're going to choose the grade you're in, which is grade 4. And then you have paper item samplers. And then you have online samplers. You want to choose the online samplers and specifically just the first one. And obviously we're taking a little time to load here. I'm just going to let this load. Looks like it's popping up here. There we go. It's going to ask you to sign in. You do not need to sign in. This is not the correct page, but let's just see what happens here. There we go. There's 3 sections in the item MCA sampler. So I just press sign in. It takes you to guest. You do not have to type in your name here. Just keep it as guest. There are 10 questions in the first section, 10 questions in the second section, and 15 in the third section. Another way to get here would be go to your Google Classroom page. So example, Mrs. Dickey's class, you're out right now. So you would go to your Google Classroom page. Remember, you can access that from your waffle. Go down to Google Classroom. There we go, Google Classroom, and you should be able to access your class that way. I'm not sure if you're a distance kid or a virtual kid, if you are able to get into that class or that way. So I would just search for the MCA practice test and go in it the way I did before. But you can just click on this link right here, and it'll take you to the place I was before. Click on your grade, and then item MCA sampler, the first one right here is where you want to go. But I'm going to go back to where it was before. The 3 sections, 10, and 15 questions for each section. And I'm just going to click on start. It's going to take me to section 1, 10 questions. And here's my first question. I'll go through most of this test or all of this test with you just because I want to show you a few things as we move along. So here we go, and then you can do sections 2 and 3 on your own. So let's just review the tools. This first tool right here on the right-hand side is the play button. This will read the test questions to you. So you don't have to read the test questions. I suggest use this play button. I am not sure that you heard that, but again, you can play this as many times as you want. And what I've told you in the past, when we come upon a word problem, read it once. So listen to it once, just to listen to it. Listen to it a second time to understand it, or read it a second time to understand it. And then the third time, do it one more time to actually do the problem. Sometimes listening to it multiple times will help you understand what they want you to do. So they want you to show what an equivalent fraction is to this fraction here. This is going to be 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 2/8 of this circle is filled in. So 2 green out of 8 sections. So 2/8. The equivalent fraction to this fraction A, B, C, or D, is it 2/4? Is it 2/6? Is it 3/10? I believe that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, 3/10, or 3/12. So hopefully you know your fractions well enough to know how to answer this. And the actual answer is 3/12. So, and the reason I got that is if this fraction is reduced, the lowest you can reduce this fraction to is 1/4. So I can divide 2/8 equally, numerator and denominator, and get that down to 1/4. So 1/4 times 2 on numerator and denominator would be 2/8. I can do the same with this fraction here, 3/12. So if I think about that fraction 1/4, if I multiply each the top and bottom number of 1/4, the numerator and denominator, by 3, it would be 3/12. 3 times 1 is 3, and 3 times 4 is 12. So this would be the equivalent fraction to this answer. So you had to think about what the lowest denominator fraction of this was, which would be 1/4. So you can see there's a lot of thinking that has to be done and some knowledge that you have to think about to answer these. You just can't say, it's A, because that would have been wrong. So that's just something that you need to think about. So these are thinking carefully problems, and you might have to think about, like we did here, about a fraction we're not even seeing, 1/4. Okay, so you needed to know that. That's a tough question, actually. So, so that's the play tool to read your questions. This tool here, toggle to click to here. I can click that on, and wherever I click on my words, it should read it. The jump back button, so if I'm reading, let's see if I can do this fast enough. If I do play to read, every time I click that, it took me back to the beginning of the sentence. This is going to take me to the end of the sentence or skip ahead. So let's see if I can do this quick enough. So I can just skip ahead. So if I play this, skip ahead. So I can skip ahead if I wanted. I don't know why you would use these two tools, honestly, but I think these first two tools you'll be using a lot of. And then we have our text-to-speech settings here. And this basically, there's a few things you can do here. You can slow down the sentence. So if you want to hear the sentence read slower, you can go to the slow speed. If you want it normal, it's already toggled as normal as a default. And then if you increase the speed to fast, you can hear it faster. So here's an example of slow. And here's an example of fast. Honestly, I don't see a reason for you to toggle it to fast. I would keep it at normal or slow, honestly. And then you could go here, and then you have this one here would be volume. You can turn that up or down. You can probably just keep it at 70%. You don't really need it at 100%. Remember, with our headphones, the louder your headphones are, the more chances you have of ruining your ears or doing damage to your eardrums. So you don't want to have damage done to your eardrums. Be careful, those headphones, you don't need this volume super loud. All right, so those are the tools on the right-hand side. You're probably not going to use these that much other than just pressing the play button. Okay, so it's not anything that you really need to worry about. Set it and just do the test. All right. Next, we'll talk about the forward arrow. Once you answer a question, you can go forward. So since this is the first question, I answered it. it'll let me go to the next question. If you don't answer a question, it will not let you move to the next question. You have to answer it, even if you know it's wrong. So if you know your question is wrong or you're questioning if it's correct, a lot of times what I tell kids, just bookmark it. All right, so that they will not let you turn in the test if your questions are bookmarked. That will remind you to go back and check this question again if you don't think it's correct. We'll get back to that in a second. I will leave this question bookmarked. This pointer arrow is what we're on now. It just allows me to answer the questions. This one here, take notes. If you want to type a notes, you could type in something to yourself if you want. Come back and look at this problem. All right, so you could type something like that. I don't know. If you want to type notes, you sure can. You don't have to. All right, then the answer eliminator is a nice tool. So if you know an answer is not correct, you can just X it out. Now, just because you X it out doesn't mean you can't bring that answer back. You sure can. So if you said, oops, I didn't mean to X out A, I wanted to X out C, you can just click on A again and it takes that X out away. All right, so maybe you want to X out, you know for sure B and C are not correct and you're deciding between A and B. That just kind of visually just helps you ignore C and B. It's just a tool you can use. Sometimes that X out button disappears and goes away and you can't, or the answer eliminator goes away and you can't use it at all on certain problems like graph problems, or, you know, I'm not sure what else they would not let you use it on, but I know graphing is one that you wouldn't have an answer eliminator on. And then you have a calculator. Most of the problems, the calculator will show up. Sometimes you just have a calculator there and you can't use it. This problem here, you know, you could figure this one out probably by using a calculator. You don't really need it, but this one I didn't really need to use a calculator, but it's there for a tool if I wanted to try to use it. Some problems the calculator will disappear on, you can't use the calculator at all. And some problems like this one, I didn't really need a calculator. I just needed to know how to break down this problem and answer it. Okay, so what I told my kids when I taught third grade is these are reading and thinking carefully tests. So read and think through it carefully, the best that you can, and answer and try to figure it out without guessing. So you've been taught all of this material. Now it's up to you to figure out how to show what you know. And again, I don't want to say the word tricky, but a lot of times the wording in these problems, or the MCA problems, are such that if you're not thinking carefully, it will mess you up. So make sure you're just thinking and reading carefully and working through them slowly, and don't be in a hurry. You have all the time that you want to take these, because I know this is the first time you're taking them this year, so I just want to mention that too. All right, so the next question, I'm just going to press that blue arrow. I'll go a little faster now. So which point is shown at 2/3? So you have points on the graph, W, X, Y, and Z. Which one is 2/3? I believe it's W, because if you look at X, that's 1.5, 1 1/2, I should say. Y is 2, and then Z is 2 and about 2/3. So I would say 2/3 is going to be W, so before the number 1. All right, the next one, in the number 200.358, which digit is in the hundreds place? Why am I reading this? So I'm going to press the play button. Oop, I have that on fast. I believe I'm going to turn that down to normal. There we go. And again, I would play it again. Okay, in the hundreds place. So we have the 200, a decimal point, and then 358. And This is the hundredth place, not the hundreds place. So the hundredths place. So again, that's a wording issue that you need to know and need to catch. Okay, so that's something, again, it's a reading and thinking carefully test. So which digit is in the hundreds place? So that would be the 3, I believe, would be in the hundredth place. Otherwise, the 2 would be in the hundreds place because there's a decimal here. And don't get caught up by a decimal and a comma. If this was a comma, that would be different than, let me think, ones, tens, tenths, hundreds. Oh, it'd be the 5, I think. That would be in the hundredths place. And then that would be the thousandth place. I believe that's how it is. I don't know my decimals. So I know the answer is either 3 or 5. I apologize. All right, so that's that answer. But again, decimal point is a tricky one. No, that's a decimal point. If that's a comma, then the answer would be different. So, all right, here we go. Next one. All right, which equation? I'm going to play it. Here we go. Which equation? Okay, the trick is here is you have to select the equations you want to choose. So there's more than one answer. Tricky word again. So equations, I'm going to highlight this. There we go, equations. All right, so I have to have n equal 12. So 3 times n equals 15. 3 times 12 equals 15. Nope, that's not correct. I do not have the X out button here. So that, I'm not sure why they're not letting us use it here, but that would be helpful in this problem. 6 times n equals 12. Nope, I would say no. That's 6 times n equals 72, I would say. 12 divided by 4 equals 3. Yep, that works for me. And then 48 divided by 12 would equal 4. Yep, that works. And then 2n times 12 is 24. But 24 plus 2 is 26, so that would not work. So I have my 2 answers here. Go on to the next one. Which shape is a rhombus? Pretty straightforward. Sometimes you might not even use the play to text speech. Which shape is a rhombus? And that would be D, I think anyway. And again, you don't always have to play the text to speech, but you can if you want. An angle is shown. Now this is an interesting one because they also read the answers for you where the other ones did not. So it doesn't hurt to just play it to see if the answers are read to you also. Just because if you don't know how to read these words, or because these are acute and obtuse isn't a word we see all the time, if you don't know how to sound it out or read it, you might get the answer wrong. So press that play button. Just listen to what she has to say, the reader. And this would be an acute angle. All right, next one. Play it here. All right, so now area. So I have to figure out the area, and I have a weird little jog. There's a couple different ways to figure this out. I'm going to figure out probably differently than you would. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 5 feet and 15 feet and multiply them together. And 5 and 15 is 75. I wish I could write that down. I can write it down. 5 and 15 is 75. Okay, and I'm going to add the next number together, the 75. So I found the area out. Let's see here. Hold on. Whoops. There we go. See if I can put my plus sign here. There we go. 75 plus. So 5 plus 15 is 5 times 15. To find area, you're going to multiply. So I'm finding the area out of this part of the shape right here. So I went 5 up and 15 across. Now I have to find this part of the shape, the area. If I go 8 times 12, which makes sense, I would now find out this whole area all the way down to here. And that's not going to work for an answer. Okay, because I already found out this area here. So this area is already, so I just need this square up here. And to figure that out, I would take 12, take away 5 is 7. So now I know this length here is 7 feet. So 7 times 8 would be 56. So I need 56. So 75 plus 56, that's 6 plus 5 is 1, and 8 plus 5 is 13. So I believe the answer is 131. Okay. I do believe if you did 5 times 15, which is 75, and 12 times 8, which is 96, that's going to give you 171. So they do give the correct wrong answer also. So don't get tricked up by that. So they gave you 2 answers that you could possibly get. If you do this one wrong, just simply do 12 times 8 and 5 times 15. You're going to get 171. Okay. And that's going to be the wrong answer. 131 square feet is correct answer. All right, next. Let's listen to it here. Translation would be just a slide, right? Not a turn, not a flip, just a slide. So if I was going to slide the shape across this line, it should look like this. B is the answer. And then here we have an interactive math problem. And let's just listen to it here quick.
Read, I counted the number of
All right, so here we go. So we have a graph. We need to drag this bar up to the correct height. So the board game, 4 people, or 4. Number of games were played were 4. Card games, number of games were played were 6. Lawn games, number of games that were played were 5. There we go. And the video game, number of games that were played were 3. So you can put these graph lines in between, even though these are just odd numbers. It's just known that in between is an odd number, and I'm sure you know that already, but I'm just sharing that with you. All right, so interactive graphs can be tricky. Just know if there's not a spot for an answer, it's something that you have to interact with and figure out. Okay, so a graph is pretty easy to figure out, but there might be some other problems that you have to interact with that are a little more difficult. Next, last question. Students create a timeline for a history project which shows a timeline. Actually, I'm going to listen to it.
a student creates a timeline.
Okay, so a timeline we have normally from least to greatest, so I have to figure that out first. So 1981 to 1965, I know that's not going to work. I'm just going to cross it out. 1892, 1908, yeah, so far so good. 1942, 1965, 1981, that's good. Okay, so 1908, 1942, 1965, 1981, 1892, that's not going to work. And now I have 1892, 1908, 1942, 1965, 1981. Oh, actually, these two, B and D, are exactly the same. Just a subtle difference. All right, so these plots on the graph are exactly the same distance apart. In a timeline, these are not exactly apart. In a timeline, dates are not exactly apart. So the logical answer would be this one here, D, because the dates are accurate in how far apart they are based on time. So D would be the answer, even though they're trying to trick you with this one, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to get tricked and see that these are just in order from least to greatest, and they're going to pick it. Well, you have to do a little more thinking. Like I said, this is a thinking carefully test, and choose the correct one where the dates are actually showing that they're farther apart from each other or closer together to each other. So again, it's a thinking carefully test as well as just a math test. All right, so I did have one bookmarked. I meant to bookmark another one. So I'm going to press the forward arrow, see what happens here. It's going to ask you when you're done if you want to submit your question. It says you have one bookmark. I'm going to go ahead back to the word review. So now we're going to go back to review. I'm going to find that bookmark. That was question number 1. They won't let you submit this test if you have a bookmark. So I'm going to go back over here. I'm going to double check this. I believe that's correct. Kind of was thinking about it as I was going along, actually. And there we go. So I'm going to unbookmark it, and now they'll let me turn it in. And actually, the one I probably should really look at is this one here. This one I'm still questioning in my head if I have that correct or not, sadly. So I have to think about that one. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and just turn it in anyway. So I'm going to go forward all the way to the front or the back of the test, question number 10. And there, end of my section, my bookmark is gone. And now I can submit it. Okay, so this would be just like the real test. You would submit it. Now the tricky part here is when you submit section 1, you can't change your answers. Your answers are locked in. So once you hit submit and you go, oh, I just remembered that I have number 3 wrong, I want to change it, you can't. Okay, so you have to just make sure that you're ready to submit. And once you submit, your answers are locked in. All right, so I'm going to submit. So it says section exit warning. You're about to leave the section, will not be able to return once you exit. Are you sure you want to leave? I'll say yes. So they give you a warning and then they get you to section 2. All right, so that's about it in a nutshell for the practice test. And you'll have some, in the beginning, you'll have to sign in with your account. Mrs. Dickey will have that information for you. But the MCA test will be very similar to this or exactly like this. All the tools will be the same. It's just the signing in will be a little different. But you'll be should be ready to go after watching this. And then you can practice section 2 and 3, just 10 and 15 questions. So it's good practice just to navigate yourself around the test and check it out. So I'll provide that link to Mrs. Dickey so she can, or on Seesaw if you're a distance kid, so you can practice that practice test. Have a great day, good luck, and remember, it's a reading carefully, thinking carefully test. All right, have a great day.